What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update for you guys, and today we're going to be focusing on strikers. Alistair Gold has done an update giving us players that are on the list, that are not on the list, maybe some surprises to you guys, but we're going to go through them one by one. And we're going to start off talking about Richarlison. Alistair Gold says that Tottenham would listen to offers for Richarlison this summer due to his injury record in his time at the club. I don't think it's a surprise, this one, but I don't really envisage us getting the money that we want for him by the end of the window.
That's the thing. It says Spurs won't entertain any serious offers, and I'm guessing we're going to at least probably want our money back, or maybe a small loss. I don't think Tottenham are going to want a major loss on him, and I think considering last season, or was it 12 Premier League goals, when he was fit and available, he did quite a good job. So I don't think Tottenham are going to be desperate to sell him. But I do wonder whether Richarlison staying does impact our search for a striker in terms of who we go for. Do we have an option in case Richarlison stays? Is there no option in case Richarlison stays? Or is it not affecting it at all? So I do wonder what the state of play is regarding Richarlison and our search for a striker.
Yeah, I mean, after the video that we did predicting the transfer window, it's not only is it hard to believe because of the options that we have, whether we bring in a striker if Richarlison stays or goes, but it's also in terms of the numbers and the foreign quota and the homegrown and all this kind of stuff. It makes it very complicated if Richarlison was to stay, about us bringing in any sort of striker, so especially with Son at the football club as well, who can play as the number 9, and now Timo Werner. If Timo Werner didn't come in, like, the numbers would work out, but now Timo's here, it's just kind of messed everything up.
Yeah, because I don't know where Son is, and then if he's a left winger, then we do need to sign a striker. We've still got Solomon on the books. So does that mean we're not going to sign another left winger, someone like Eze? Is that going to complicate a deal for him if Richarlison stays? So it's all very complicated, and I kind of feel like if we would have just not signed Werner up again, it would have made things a lot simpler.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's probably watching this being like, oh, God, do you guys ever shut up about Werner? You sound like a broken record. But it's literally impacting our transfer window. That is the reality. Let's talk about Jonathan David. Nazar Kinsella said that Tottenham are one of the clubs believed to be interested in signing Jonathan David. The striker is set to be available for around or less than £30 million. And Alistair Gold said that Jonathan David is a player that is high up on Tottenham's striker shortlist. And with a player of that quality, with the goals that he scored over quite a number of years now, and for that price, it does seem like a very Tottenham deal to do, and not a bad deal to do either.
It is an odd one though, isn't it, with Jonathan David? As much as I appreciate his quality, and I think it'd be a very exciting, interesting signing for Tottenham, he's one who just seems to be being around for ages. I know he's still only 24. It feels like he's getting into his late 20s, the amount of especially the amount of Fabrizio Romano has spoken about him over the last few years. But he's one where there's been a lot of interest over him over the last few years, but no one's been serious about going for him. Maybe it's because Lille have been very much sticking by their kind of asking price, which is, I think, historically around 60 million for a number of years, and no one's really wanted to bite the bullet or risk going for that price. And now that he's in his last year of his contract, he's being talked about with a few more signings, and people are saying they're a lot more interested in him. Obviously, there now is talk of Chelsea interested in him as well, and a few other clubs. But I think when a striker's been that consistent over that many years, and he's available for that price, and he's still fairly young, it's hard to look away from that. And actually, when you think about it, how many strikers with David's track record are going to be on the market right now for that kind of price? A striker of his age as well.
I'd say none.
Very few or none. So from that point of view, it does make a lot of sense for Tottenham to go for him. But is there a reason no one's really been serious about going for him over these number of years? What has been stopping clubs when they've scouted him, looking at David and thinking, is he actually the guy? Because something has been stopping these big clubs.
I just feel like Lille's price point and price figure has just been way too high for teams to go out there and bite the bullet. Like you said, I think it has been around 50 to 60 million that they've been demanding, and now he's got a year left on his contract, and now the price has dropped dramatically. I think clubs are starting to take note, because David Ornstein said yesterday that Chelsea are holding talks with Jonathan David and Lille and everyone associated with the deal. So I do think teams are starting to take notice because of that price drop, and I think he'll be a good candidate. I don't think he'll be the best, but when you're looking at how much work Spurs need to do and the money that we're going to need to spend, Eze 65, 68 million, 25 million for a Jonathan David is a good deal to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does make sense. But when you're looking for a striker, I think a striker who like presses from the front, has pace in behind, is a complete. Also can maybe play out wide as well if you need him to do. Does fit the bill. But before this window, we were talking about a striker, who's got a bit of physical like attributes, hold up play, is strong, can hold the ball with his back to goal. David's not quite kind of that striker. He's different. So I guess Richarlison would have to play that kind of role.
Yeah. And whether we can fit both of them in the squad remains to be seen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Santiago Gimenez, two very much conflicting reports I've got for you here, and one from a journalist called Juan Carlos Cruz. I'm sure he's like a Mexican journalist, maybe someone close
I saw sort of via Sport Witness. I don't know if he's a journalist for Sport Witness, but I don't know.
Potentially. But anyway, this one says Santiago Gimenez is very close to completing a transfer to Tottenham now. Feyenoord have received bids from both Atletico Madrid and Spurs, with the Dutch side waiting to accept the higher bid from Spurs. Atletico Madrid have been advised to match Spurs' proposal if they want the striker, with the situation deemed complicated for the Spanish side. However, in classic Alistair Gold style, he says that final striker Santiago Gimenez is not among those who are believed to be on Tottenham Hotspur's list.
The famous Ali Gold pouring cold water on the rumours. But look, in terms of Gimenez, maybe it's a case of we've looked at him, the underlying metrics, or maybe we've scouted him extensively and thought, despite his good record or good season, maybe he's actually not the right fit. Maybe that's the road we're going down. I saw someone on X tweet about that news saying, I think it makes sense because he reminds me too much of Vincent Janssen, and maybe he would flop in a similar direction. For what I would say is, from what I saw of him, I haven't seen him too much in the Eredivisie. From what I saw of him in the Champions League, he did look like capable of playing at that kind of level, and he seemed to be very good. So that's all I can say on that one. But obviously, he's probably going to be more expensive than a Jonathan David, and with Jonathan David's track record, and I think they're similar ages, but Jonathan David probably makes a bit more sense at this point.
I agree with that. Ivan Toney, Alistair Gold says those within Spurs have distanced themselves from reports for a move to Brentford striker Ivan Toney at this stage of the transfer window. I think we've mentioned over the past couple of updates, like if we are to go to Toney, it will rumble on right until the end of the window. It's just that kind of deal with the clubs involved in Brentford and Tottenham. We saw how these two clubs negotiated over the last summer with David Raya. Spurs obviously went for the cheaper option, Vicario, in the end, and we're very happy with that option. But I don't see Brentford willing to budge on their price early on in the window, and if Spurs still haven't got a striker until maybe the latter stage, last few weeks of the window, maybe this one can pick up again. But it's interesting with Ivan Toney because he had so much interest, didn't he, at the stage where his ban just got announced. Arsenal were in for him, I think Chelsea were in for him, other clubs were in for him, and since then, his goal scoring record has dried up since coming back from the ban. And I don't know if it's to do with that or it's to do with the attitude issues that he does have, but no club seem to want to bite the bullet on him.
Well, you got to remember as well, he's 28 years of age. Brentford probably at this point in the window are demanding quite a high transfer fee. As you say, apparently Arsenal, in their due diligence, found some problems with his personality, which they found troubling, and that's why they pulled away from the deal. So if that's kind of the way clubs are looking at it, I can understand why if Brentford are demanding a high fee at this point in the window, there's not going to be much interest. But I do think with 1 year left on his deal, as the weeks go by, that will change. But that's whether Tottenham are still looking for a striker at that point or not. We'll decide whether we go for him. I wouldn't rule it out if Tottenham still haven't signed a striker by August. I wouldn't rule a last-minute deal for Toney, because when a striker like that, as good as him, is on the market, and if he's available for a decent fee at that stage, and he's English, I think we'll have to take a look at it at that point. But I hope by August we'll have a striker through the door.
If I could offer you only two strikers, a David for 25 million or a Toney for 40 million, like regardless of whatever, if you can fit them in or whatever, like no matter of how the land lays in our squad, who would you take?
I think we probably need a Toney more than a David. But the problem is Jonathan David's like 4 years younger, maybe. I think Jonathan David probably does have a higher ceiling than Toney. I think Toney would help us a lot more in the short term, in the next couple of years or so. But I think David would be the smarter move. As much as I think Toney,
You think he's got a higher ceiling at this point?
I think so. I think David has a higher ceiling. But the thing with Toney is we know he's prem proven. I think he is more of the kind of striker we do want in this squad. So if we're looking to challenge, I guess, the next season right now, I think our best bet would be probably Toney. But if we're looking more of a project long-term thing, then David would be the smarter move.
The thing is with Jonathan David, like, he's got such great numbers in the French league, as does, aging Lacazette and an aging Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. But whenever I see him in these big tournaments, in the World Cup, in the Copa America now, he never really does too well, does he?
It's an interesting one with that because he doesn't usually score the same level of goals, or his finishing isn't as good, but he's still always a threat. He's still always getting in amongst the chances, but for some reason or another, his finishing doesn't translate in the tournaments. I don't know how he does in general in international level, but I know at the major tournaments when I've seen him, he's always caused defenders trouble, but he never usually goes in the scoring. He scores the amount of goals, or his finishing isn't usually up to standard like it is in Liga.
Very strange. But anyway, let's talk about Federico Chiesa. Ali Gold says that Chiesa is not thought to be of interest for Tottenham this summer, which I thought he would be, because when you're looking at the price point that he's looking at, 1 year left in his deal at Juventus, top quality player that can play on either flank. Paratici obviously knows him very well because of his time at Juventus. I thought he would be someone that Spurs would be interested in.
You would, especially a winger who can play both right and left. But I guess how Tottenham are thinking about it is, I don't know how much he's going to cost. And I know Juventus are open to letting him go, but he's 26. He doesn't have a great injury record. He's going to be on pretty high wages. He is a player who, when fit and available, can be a very good player for Tottenham. Although what I would say is, in a last year especially, he was played a lot more in the central areas than he was on the wing. So whether they're looking at thinking, if we want a winger, is he the guy we actually want to go for big wages, when he's actually might not be the perfect fit on the wing, when he's playing a bit more central. In a weird way, I feel like if we had Conte and he was one of those in a 3-4-3 and he was one of those players there, he'd be a better fit than what Ange wants in wingers hugging the touchline. But it depends how much they're demanding, because if it is a good price, I'll be shocked if they're not really interested in at least entertaining it.
In the press, they're talking about 35 million, something like that, which I think for a player of his quality is a really decent price.
It's not bad. It's pretty good. For he's still coming into his peak, but it's about his injury problems, which last season, to be fair to him, he played quite a few games. So
I think 33 games last season.
So maybe he's coming over it, but historically he hasn't had the best injury record.
A couple other things from Ali Gold article. He said Joshua Zirkzee is not a forward that Tottenham are considering at this point. I think he's heavily linked with Manchester United at the moment. Obviously a really good season at Bologna.
40 million release clause.
Yeah, young striker, 40 million release clause. Again, I thought this one probably Spurs should have been and would have been interested in.
Another one who, again, physically, I think he makes sense. He's tall, he's strong, has decent hold-up play. Maybe it's a case of we don't want to, if Man United are stealing ahead of us, we don't want to be interested in that and in a war with them. And also, he scored 11 goals last season, but his finishing data is actually quite poor. So whether we looked at that and thinking actually he's not the best finisher and he overperformed a bit with the amount of goals he scored, maybe we're looking at that and thinking that's the case. So let Man United have him.
And the last one I've got from Ali Gold says that Tottenham scouted RB Leipzig forward Lewis Openda. However, 4 years left in his contract, reportedly has an €80 million release clause, which becomes active in 2025, which Leipzig looking for much more this summer. So obviously that's not going to be something in Spurs' remit when you're going to get him for a lot cheaper the summer after. Like, why spend this much this summer? I just can't see Spurs doing something like that. But Lewis Openda is a top quality player in my opinion, had a really good season at RB Leipzig, and he's showing his class at the Euros coming off the bench as well.
Yeah, he's got pace to burn. I think he really does suit the Bundesliga because, a lot of teams in the Bundesliga press high and leave a lot of space in behind, and he really suits that, running in behind, always playing on the last shoulder. I think he would be a good fit for Tottenham, but obviously this summer he's only been there 1 year. He scored a bag load of goals, so they're not going to want to let him go. He's going to cost a very, very large fee, and And so I don't see Tottenham, pushing the 100 million mark, which I think is going to take it this summer to get him out of Leipzig.
Yeah. But that is the striker situation. I mean, we brought up a hell of a lot of names, but a hell of a lot of names that we're not going to be signing.
Yeah, Jonathan David at the moment is the flavour of the week, so let's see if that one hots up.
Yeah.
But then again, he's at the Copper, so I don't know if anything will happen.
That's the thing. I mean, I don't envisage Canada going too far, so they've already played their first game. They lost. So let's see how far they go. But I mean, there is a big possibility they don't make it out the groups, isn't it?
So are we rooting for them to sign Jonathan David?
Let's see. Let's see what happens. But last but not least, we're going to talk about the away kit launch, which did happen today. Spurs launched their light blue away kit, which definitely has a nod to the 80s, that's for sure. And I think the video that they put out definitely represented that. So let's go and have a look at that. It was called the Spurs Steal the Show is what they're going for.
Steal the Show, the Spurs Show.
Starring Big Pape Matar, Mickey van der Ven.
It does look nice.
Deadly King, Danny Aarons.
A blue and white chessboard. I've never seen one of those.
Martha Thomas. Bizet. Antien. And Radu Dragusin. Pedro Porro.
It's a nice kit. And that's the does own the Spurs before every game.
Just pause it there a sec. Pause the video there.
Oh.
Yeah. If you look at that, it says right at the bottom, a Tottenham Hotspur production holiday special, destination Bilbao, Spain.
That's the European final.
Aren't they being a bit presumptuous there?
You're the one who's bought tickets for
I bought mine on refund only.
But come on, I like it. Come on, let's get to Bilbao. Come on, I like the confidence. Let's do it.
I like it as well. If you just scroll down the Twitter, you'll see just more pictures of the shirt. Bring up that big one of Mickey van der Ven. I mean, when I first saw the rumours of this kit, I didn't like it, but now I'm seeing it here, I actually do quite like it.
The only thing I don't like about it is whenever Tottenham play in light blue, we always lose every time. I don't know what it is, but we always have the worst game whenever we play in light blue.
100%. So if you scroll down, scroll a bit further down to this one, they did a little teaser for us. And it says that Spurs show. And underneath it says 24th of June, 2024, which is obviously today. So I guess that's it. I actually, when I was bringing up that thing, I thought it had the Europa League final date, but it doesn't. It has today's date on it. So, so forget about that. But yeah, look, it's a nice kit. I like the home kit as well. And the third kit that is going to come out soon, which we've all seen, is the green kit with the upside down night tick, which I think is a nice kit as well. So I think Nike have done a good job this year.
Yeah, and I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
All right, well, let us know your thoughts on the kit. Let us know your thoughts on all those transfer targets that we're not going to get this summer. And do you want Jonathan David in this summer as well? Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.